And we'll get started. So welcome. My name is Jennifer Bess. I'm Director of National Fellowships in National Fellowships and Scholar Programs. Our office is the home base for students to apply for nationally competitive awards. So we're going to give you this workshop to do just a quick overview of some of the options that exist for graduate funding for students who are in STEM fields. I'm joined today by my colleague Ethan Knight, who's our National Fellowships Coordinator for STEM Awards, funnily enough. And then also Taylor and Eden in our office are on this call too. So we're going to go through about, I think, maybe 7 or 8 different options. Please feel free to stop at any point to type a question in the chat or raise your hand. Happy for this to be interactive. I don't like just talking at a screen, so please feel free to engage in that way. And everything that we talk about today are awards that we know about, that we support, but there certainly are other awards out there for STEM funding that we're happy to help you with if you come across them, as long as they're nationally competitive. So thanks everyone who's put their year and field of study in the chat, and we're going to keep on moving through. So real quick, this is our staff. These are our National Fellowship Advisors. So there's me, the director, Paige Jennings. She focuses primarily on international awards. Ethan Knight on STEM awards, and Taylor helps us with first and second year students. But we're all cross-trained, right? So we all know a little bit about all of the fellowships that we support in our office. So please feel free to reach out to any of us to ask questions. We're located on the 3rd floor of DAAD, which is on the Horseshoe, and we're doing both in-person and virtual appointments for the rest of the semester. So please feel free to reach out. Quick little overview, what is a national fellowship? We get this question a lot, and it's not an easy one to answer, really. Fellowships and scholarships are kind of interchangeable words. Recently, I've discovered that I think I define fellowship more as funding that allows you to do something, have an experience, whereas scholarships often is just like, here's a chunk of money. So what we're going to talk about today are awards that give you a chunk of money to do some really cool things. But essentially, when we talk national fellowships, we're talking about merit-based awards. There's not financial need involved with most of these, if any of them. So they're awarded on merit. They are financial pieces given to you, so not directly to USC, and they come from outside the university. So we don't have any funding. We are trying to help you find funding from outside sources. Usually they're portable. So if you're a current undergrad, we're talking about awards that you can apply to as you are starting graduate school that you can take with you wherever you go for grad school, whether it's at USC or someplace else. They are given to students across the US. That's why they're nationally competitive. Some of them are internationally competitive. So you're in a giant pool of applicants. And it's typically for graduate study across all disciplines. Today we're focused on STEM awards. So that's how we're defining national fellowships. So I'll jump right in. So these are sort of alphabetical, I will just say. So we're starting with the Computational Science Graduate Fellowship given by the Department of Energy. One thing I'll say you'll notice as we go through is I call these alphabet soup. There's a lot of letters involved with these awards. So we'll start with this one. On the right, you have Riley Brady, who was our most recent recipient of this in 2016, and he's finished his PhD now. So this provides funding for a PhD only, so not master's degrees, but if you're interested in earning your doctorate. And there's 2 kind of tracks with this. So originally they were only supporting applicants who were in graduate programs in STEM that utilized high performance computing, right? So whatever field you're in, whatever you're doing, so long as you were utilizing high performance computing, you were eligible for the CSGF. But a couple of years ago, they added a second track where you're eligible if you actually study the high performance computing, right? So computer science and that kind of work is your field. So one of those 2 directions is what they're interested in providing funding for. This is a very robust reward, I would say. They provide up to 4 years of support for your PhD. And the award itself, it's tuition. The current stipend is $38,000 a year. You get a 12-week practicum at a DOE facility. There's a lot of mentoring that goes involved with this, a lot of networking. A couple of things I want to flag for you. So the deadline last year was typically mid-January. I feel like it used to be earlier, but now they moved it. Maybe it was COVID, not real sure. One thing I'll say as we go through this, I'm giving you the typical deadlines, but for all of these, you're going to want to go and look at the awards website itself and see what their current cycle looks like. None of them have opened their current cycle yet. Most of them will open late summer because they will have late fall deadlines. One of the harder pieces in this particular application is this program of study. So the program of study for your graduate degree, for your PhD, has to be approved by DOE, and it is actually part of the application for this award. So if you're applying for this as a senior, you need to be in touch with the graduate program that you hope to go to and working with them to establish what your program of study will look like. It doesn't mean that there can be no changes to that, but they do want it really set because it's part of how they check to make sure that you are actually in a program that will utilize this high performance computing or will study it. And so it's a type of award where you really need to be in contact with your future advisor, wherever that is. So I know that Riley did that. He ended up in Colorado at Boulder, and he was in touch with the faculty that he ended up working with, and she helped him design his program of study. So just flagging that as kind of, that's the special piece about this application. All of these awards in general are going to ask you biographical information, your research background, what you hope to do in the future, awards, publications, things like that, personal statements. But this one has this particular extra piece of the program of study. That's the DOE. Any quick questions about that? I'll pause after each one, but we also can do a big Q&A at the very end. Okay. Next up, the DAAD study grants. This is a little bit different, but still something worth flagging. So the DAAD provides funding for graduate degrees in Germany. So this is not STEM specific, but it is a STEM option. And so I don't know if you all are aware, but master's degrees in Germany tends to be basically free, even for German citizens, but also for really anybody who's there. And so this award is great because it provides living stipend and some insurance and things like that for travel as well. So if you're interested in going to grad school in Germany, many of the programs, particularly in the sciences, do not require German. They very well may be entirely taught in English. So don't count this out. I mean, Germany is certainly known in the world for their STEM expertise, and so it's worth looking at these for master's degrees as well as international experience. So to be eligible to apply for this, you need to be a current senior or a recent graduate student. You also have to apply to the German university separately. So this is the funding mechanism, but not the actual entrance into the graduate program. And interestingly, this is one that's available not only to U.S. citizens, but really anybody who receives their undergrad degree in the U.S. So it's a nice option for people from various backgrounds. We've had a couple students do this award. And I do think the more German you have, the better, just because it's about integrating into the society. But you would be surprised, I think, at how many graduate degrees are actually taught in English. So questions or comments about the DAAD study grant? Anybody thinking about grad school in Germany yet? You all are now, that's the key. So moving right along. GEM, so the GEM National Consortium, I feel like, yes, okay, is a program to increase the number of underrepresented minority students receiving either master's degrees in engineering or PhDs in engineering or natural and physical sciences. So this is a consortium of schools that participate, as well as a consortium of industry partners. So you get sponsored by a business and you attend a GEM consortium school. So just note that it's master's degrees in engineering or PhDs in engineering or natural and physical sciences. There's 3 levels of awards given with GEM. So the one that you really want is the full fellows, because that's the most robust program. In that case, you would receive tuition, all your fees, the $16,000 stipend, and a summer internship with the industry sponsor of your award. So that's a pretty big award. If you were named an associate fellow, you would be offered tuition and stipend. So you wouldn't get your fees or the summer internship, but tuition and stipend is still pretty solid. And then finally, university fellows available only at the master's level, they would receive tuition at a GEM consortium school. So there's lots of options there. The reason that this program exists, they're trying to promote opportunities to enter industry through research and development, product development, all those sorts of things. You do have to attend a GEM member institution for your graduate program, but there are a lot of schools in that and a lot of very good schools in that. So that I wouldn't worry about that. But as you're putting together your list of potential grad school options, just double check and make sure at least some of them are on that. The deadline for this is in early November because they do this kind of matching process between you and the industry partner and the schools that you're applying to. So we've had, I don't think we've been able to make the public announcement yet for GEM, but we do have a couple of winners this year, and we've had others in the past. So this is an award that USC students are very familiar with and successful with. So take a look at that one. Questions or comments about GEM? All right, y'all are taking serious notes. This one, so this used to be the National Physical Science Consortium, which is what I want to call it, but they've changed their name to the Graduate Fellowships for STEM Diversity, which is also a good name, just different letters. And so this is an award that is looking to promote the number of Americans with grad degrees in physical sciences and engineering, and they really want a diverse applicant pool. If you go to their website, they really do have a diverse applicant pool. It's one of the most diverse of all the national fellowships in STEM. And so they also offer special consideration for underrepresented minorities and women applicants, but it's not exclusively for them. So if you are interested in, Candace, thank you for your question. I will pause. Eligibility requirements for GEM, it's usually as you go into your grad degree. I'd have to double check as to whether or not you can be a second or third year PhD student. Ethan, would you check on that while I keep going?
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Awesome. Okay, so Candace will get back to you, but that's a very good question. The GFSD is renewable for up to 6 years, so it's one of the longest lasting awards potentially. It gives you a $20,000 annual stipend. It does cover tuition. And again, this is about a partnership between the program, between industry, between government agencies, and they also provide you a mentor throughout that process. So this is another really robust program. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about fellowships as not just handing you money, but sort of giving you an experience. All of these awards are really trying to encourage and support students going through the PhD and master's programs so that you can be successful, because they want more successful STEM scientists. The graduate fellowship deadline, this one is typically in mid-December, so usually December 15th or so, but again, check the date on that one. Again, it's a pretty straightforward application, as most of these are. So questions about this one? The reason I say it used to be the National Physical Science Consortium, the NPSC, is you might find it. I can't remember how recently we may have had a winner of that, but that's how you'd find them on our website if you were looking for them. So moving along. So the Department of Defense has a couple of awards we're going to talk about. So the first one alphabetically is the NDSEG, the National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship. So this is a pretty awesome award as well. Sponsored by the Department of Defense. This is specifically funding for PhDs, and they have a specific list of disciplines, but it's pretty broad. And I feel like most of the ones, if not all of the ones y'all have put in the chat, would be covered by that. So what they're interested in is why the work that you are doing, the research you're interested in doing longer term, why might the Department of Defense care about that, right? What's the connection? Or why might you want to work for the DoD? There is no service requirement with this. You don't have to work for the DoD after you graduate, but that's still considered the source of the funding, right? I mean, if they're investing in you, they want to see a reason that the work that you're doing and the field that you're studying, the courses and the dissertation that you do will be helpful to the DoD long term. It does provide 3 years of funding. And again, this is a pretty hefty award. This is full tuition. This is a living stipend, currently $38,400, travel and health insurance allowance. So you'll note here on the right, Erin McParland, she was one of our more recent awardees. She got it in 2014, and she's currently doing her postdoc now at Woods Hole. And this deadline they've moved a little bit earlier, so this deadline is typically in early November. So what I'll say about, sort of kind of space out when you apply for these. You can apply for more than one, and I would encourage you to do that. But you want to make your plan for which ones kind of come first, and some of them will feed directly into graduate degree applications for graduate school. And so you can kind of use different pieces at different times and kind of put them together. So don't be afraid to apply to more than one of these because there's going to be some overlap, but it does take a little bit of planning. One of the reasons that we're having this workshop now is so you can know what's ahead and make a plan. So any questions about the NDSEG? Y'all are quiet, which is good. That's okay. Next, we just had our workshop last week for the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship Program. I'm not sure if some of you might have been at that, so I'm not going to say a ton about the NSF right now. You can go watch that webinar and we go into a lot more detail, but just flagging this for you so that you know that it exists. This is probably the most well-known graduate STEM award out there. And so this is the National Science Foundation. They will give you 3 years of funding that you can use over a 5-year stretch, getting either your master's or PhD in STEM or some social science degrees. They really are wanting applicants to be early in their careers, so graduating seniors are the most, that's the target for them, but you can apply in either your first or second year of grad school if you did not receive the award as an undergrad. This one offers $12,000 in tuition annually and a $34,000 stipend, so it's worth $138,000 total, which is, again, pretty good. The application for this one, there's a personal statement and then a research proposal for what you hope to do in grad school, but that's not binding in any way. The 2 areas that they're evaluating you on, the NSF looks at the intellectual merit of the work that you're doing, how are you advancing knowledge in your particular field, but then they're also interested in the broader impacts, both of what does your research mean, how will it help the world, and the broader impact of you as a research scientist. How are you going to encourage some of the societal goals that NSF has, like creating a more diverse STEM workforce, helping scientific literacy amongst Americans, having an international workforce, things like that. It is a portable award, so when you receive it, you can take it with you to various schools, as I mentioned earlier. As an example of the power of the NSF GRFP, so announcements came out last week and we had a student who received it who then got an email from a school she'd been waitlisted at saying that they were going to be making her an offer. I was like, that's because they saw you got the NSF and now you have money that you're bringing with you to school. And so sometimes spots seem to magically open up for people who have their own funding. So all of these awards, that's kind of true, right? If you come in with your own funding, it helps everyone, both you and the institution. So you have a few more doors that might open for you if you have your own funding. NSF is one of the earliest deadlines that we'll talk about. So they're typically mid to late October. They're parceled out, divided out by field of study, but it's 4 different days basically in 1 week. They just have rolling deadlines like that. So you work on this and then be ready for grad school and things. So if you want a lot more detail about NSF, I recommend that you watch the workshop from last week. That's kind of the big picture overview I'll give you for that one. Ethan, have you had any luck? Oh, there it is.
It's perhaps not the best answer, but it does look like, because they don't say anything specifically about first or second year students, but because they ask students to directly apply to a minimum of 3 GEM member universities that have STEM graduate departments as part of the application, that seems to me to indicate that they want you to not already be enrolled, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if you are if you're a senior, a master's student, must be senior, master's student, or graduate. Yeah. So if you're already in your PhD canvas, I think that's not going to work.
Yeah, it looks to me like they would like you to not be enrolled quite yet.
Right. They want you to be starting your PhD program. Yeah. Thanks for reassuring me, Candace. I always feel bad, but it is a point, right? You really got to read the eligibility criteria for any of these awards really carefully because they are pretty particular and they're all just a little bit different. So getting some clarification is good. And always go to the source. So thank you, Ethan, for pulling that up. So turnaround on NSF. So deadlines in mid-October, right? So students who applied in mid-October this year literally just found out last week. So you apply in October, you find out in March. they're typically trying to hit, yeah, they basically want to tell you before the April 15th deadline for accepting graduate schools. So April 15th is a standard deadline for graduate school acceptance, like for you to accept a graduate school offer. And so most competitions are going to try and get you, or would get you, results before then so that you are fully informed about what your financial situation might be before you make a decision. So if you graduate in December, this coming December, if you applied in the fall, the October before you graduated, you would know in March and then could start your degree program in the fall, the next fall. Yep. And that's how all of these would work, right? So when I say the deadline is in November or in December, you're going to find out in the spring, and the award would then begin the following academic year in the fall. Good questions. Okay. Our second DoD option, the SMART, Science, Math, and Research for Transformation, nice acronym. So this is similar to the NDSEG, but a little bit broader. So this one, you can be a master's or PhD student or a graduating senior. You have to have at least 1 year of funding required, like left in your degree. So, you know, so Candace, you might be eligible for this one, is what I would say. Citizenship in this one is US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, or the UK, which is an interesting bunch, but broader than just the US, which is nice. And again, it's sponsored by the Department of State. Like the NDSEG, they're going to ask you some questions about how your work is related to things that DoD might care about. This one has a little bit more of a direct involvement and longer term involvement with the Department of Defense. So you do get a summer internship experience, you intern at the DoD, and then you have a service requirement. So for however many years of funding they offer you, you would pay that back by working for the DoD for that many number of years after you finish the degree that they've helped pay for. That does not mean it's like free. I mean, they're paying you for that. It's a job, right? But you are required to work for the DoD as a civilian. So keep that in mind. But I think a lot of times that's a benefit, right? I mean, you have a guaranteed job. You'd be doing work that you were interested in, and go on. So it also has awards for undergrad students. So our most recent winners have all been undergrads, but they do have a graduate option as well. So you've got Gabby here, who is a 2018 Smart Scholar. She just graduated last spring and has started her work with the Navy, actually. So they do, I think, but definitely the SMART does ask you to identify like which service branch you're interested in and which location. Their website has a big list of all of the research labs that are available, or research labs and centers, like not individual labs, but programs. And they do ask you to kind of identify where do you think you might want to work. So that's helpful. Whether you're applying for the SMART or the NDSEG, looking at the SMART website and the list of opportunities and places and types of research that they're doing can be helpful for you to look at early on to get a sense of, does your work fit into this, right? Are they doing things that you're interested in? Are you doing things that they're interested in? And so kind of digging through that takes a little bit of time, but would pay off and open up some opportunities that you might not be aware of. So I would encourage you to take a look at the SMART website. This is full tuition, living stipend. Again, a really lucrative award, and yeah, I would encourage you to look at that one. Their deadline is usually about December 1st. So again, you'd hear back. We haven't heard back from SMART yet, but we will hear probably in the next few weeks. April's a big month to find out. And then this is the last one I'm going to talk about. So Fulbright we threw in here just kind of, it's different than the other ones. So, but we always are like, everyone should consider Fulbright. The Fulbright offers a year of funding to go abroad after you've earned your bachelor's degree. So you can apply as a graduating senior or a grad student, or once you've graduated. You just can't have your PhD and apply for a Fulbright. So what I'm flagging for you, there's a bunch of different things you can do with Fulbright, but the two things I would flag is you can earn a master's degree with a study grant, or you can do independent research. So if you've got a project in mind, a thing you want to focus on that's in a different country and you have some connections, this could be a really interesting option. The year is fully funded by Fulbright, and these are cooperative grants between the US and the host country. So different countries offer different types of awards. You got to kind of look into that. But many countries have some preferences for STEM applicants, And there are some specific awards, both study and research grants in the STEM fields. So if you're interested in that, we can chat more. The application process we're starting now on campus, really you work on it over the summer, and we have a campus deadline in mid-August. But Alexis Bantle is one of our recent recipients. So she had won a couple of undergrad scholarships in marine science, and then she got a Fulbright research grant to go to Germany, did that for a year, and now she's back in the US in grad school and applying for NSF and other awards as well. So just know that Fulbright is an option that can kind of fit in if you want a different sort of experience, or if you want to earn a graduate degree, a one-year grad degree abroad. So just wanted to mention that. I think that's it for the run-through. So, what you can do now, because I know some of you are in various stages of your undergrad career, right? Continue to do well in your classes, challenge yourself in choosing classes, right? Like try to learn new things and see what's out there and explore. Definitely pursue research options. It can only help to know and to have those experiences. Definitely try to find ways to present your research. So there's some options on campus as well as broader, but any types of ways that you can share the products of your research, posters, presentations, publications, things like that. And then of course, making sure that you are talking with your faculty and research PIs, because they're your network and potential recommenders, right? So they can help you figure out the good programs out there. They may know of awards that we didn't mention today that you might want to pursue, but certainly they're people that they'll turn to for help in writing recommendations for those applications. Next steps, if you want to see more about any of these awards, they all have entries on our database info. We'll also follow up with you with an email from this session that has links to that. Those entries will link directly to the websites of these awards. So again, I encourage you to really go to the source, right? Go to the individual websites and check what the current status is, what the eligibility requirements are, what the deadlines are. As I said, all that information is probably going to be forthcoming over the summer. Please do make an appointment to come talk with us. We love to talk with students individually and help you figure out which of these or other things might best fit your long-term plans. So if you're an undergrad, you can find us on Navigate. We're under Involvement and Engagement and then National Fellowship Advising. If you're a grad student or an alumni, you can just email us for an appointment and we'll set that up for you. Ethan, can you toss the intent to apply form link into the chat? One thing that we do ask is that if any of these look interesting, if you're thinking you might apply, it's not written in stone, but if you're thinking about it, we have this intent to apply form that if you fill that out, it helps us keep track of you and make sure that we give you information over the summer and into the fall as things open up and deadlines become known, and just sharing resources and things like that with you. So it would be great if you filled that out. Thank you, Ethan. And as I mentioned in the last slide, definitely be reaching out to your faculty and research mentors, getting advice for graduate programs, and starting the conversation about recommendation letters, right? So you don't need to be asking them right now, but just talking to them so that they know that you're looking ahead to grad school will help when you are finally ready to ask for those recommendations. So, Trip asks really good questions. Okay. Is there an existing network of people from USC has received these awards and or a location which would be able to do their applications? Brilliant questions. So on our website, we do have a winners database. So you can go through and type in NSF JRFP and it'll populate with all the winners that we've had. Actually, if you go to info on the database for any of these awards, as you're reading the page description, it'll also have on the right-hand side a list of recent USC winners. So that's the place to find winners. And then, yes, we do have application materials from some of these awards. I don't know that we have from all of them, but many of them we do. And the way that works is they're housed on Blackboard. We have a Blackboard organization. If you fill out an intent to apply form and tell us that you're interested in applying for one of these, then that will allow us, or we will then give you access to the Blackboard organization and that specific competition folder. And if there are previous applications that we have, they'll be there, right? So we try and control access to that, but we do have that, yes, as a resource so that you can look at previously successful applications from USC students and these awards. You probably have the most for NSF, but we should have a few of the other ones as well. So Yep, we try. And I will say, you know, everyone on the winners list on the website, you know, we don't have their emails connected there, but if there's a particular alum that you'd be like, that you would want to talk to, we're happy to try to connect you. We do stay in touch with quite a few of them. So we're happy to make those connections. I have found that USC alumni are always very willing to help current students. It's a nice family. So I think that's it. Slide number 14 is just thank you. So here's my contact info. Here's Ethan's contact info. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to keep in touch with upcoming workshops and deadlines and things like that. But as I said, if you felt that intent to apply form, that will really help us. But mostly we just really invite you to come and chat with us so that we can really help tailor your experience and help you make a plan so that you can apply for any or all of these. All might be a lot, but certainly any would be good. And make the kind of connections that Zip is asking about as well. So that's it, but I'm happy to hang out and answer any questions. Thank you all for being here. We also, I mean, we recorded this, so we will also post it on the website in a couple of days. So if you want to go back and revisit anything, it'll be available for you as well. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to